The first time I noticed it, I was under the hood of her car at midnight, grease under my fingernails, wondering why Sophie always managed to forget basic maintenance. Oil changes, tire pressure, brake fluid, everything slipped her mind until something broke down. Just like tonight, when she'd called me from downtown, stranded with a dead battery. "You're such a lifesaver, Danny," she'd said when I pulled up with jumper cables. But as I worked, I noticed her hands on the steering wheel, naked finger where her wedding ring should be. "Where's your ring?" I asked. She glanced down, then laughed that embarrassed laugh she'd perfected. "Oh, God, I'm such a mess. I took it off to wash my hands at the restaurant and totally forgot to put it back on." Made sense. Sophie worked at Meridian Marketing downtown, always networking at fancy places where appearances mattered. She was beautiful, auburn hair, green eyes that could sell ice to Eskimos, and climbing the corporate ladder fast. I was proud of her success, even if it meant I saw less of her these days. But the ring thing kept happening. Before girls' nights, before work events, before quick dinners with clients. Each time, the same embarrassed laugh, the same excuse about forgetting. I wanted to be the understanding husband, the guy who didn't turn into a paranoid control freak, so I let it slide. 3 weeks later, I was in my garage workshop. I ran a custom auto restoration business from our house when her phone buzzed on my workbench. She was upstairs packing for a weekend girls' trip to some spa resort. The message preview made my blood freeze. Took it off again, forgot my ring, free for the weekend. It was from her best friend Melissa, but it was clearly Sophie's words. My hands shook as I set the phone down. A wedding ring isn't heavy. You don't forget something you've worn for 8 years. You remove it when you want to look available. I walked upstairs to our bedroom. Sophie was folding clothes into her suitcase, humming some pop song, looking excited in a way I hadn't seen in months. No ring. "Going somewhere special?" I asked. "Just the spa with the girls. You know, massages, wine, girl talk." She smiled, but didn't meet my eyes. "Need to decompress from work." "Funny thing about decompressing," I said. "Usually helps to remember you're married while you do it." Her face flushed. "Danny, don't start with the ring thing again. I told you, I just forget sometimes." "Every time you leave the house for fun, apparently." "You're being paranoid." She zipped the suitcase with more force than necessary. "I love you, but this jealousy thing isn't attractive." That word, jealousy, hit like a slap. She'd turned my legitimate concern into my character flaw. A classic gaslighting, though I didn't know that term yet. "Have fun at the spa," I said quietly. After she left, I sat in my workshop staring at her phone, which she'd forgotten on my bench. The location sharing was still on, something we'd set up years ago for safety. According to the GPS, she wasn't at any spa resort. She was at the Moonlight Motel on Highway 9, the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour. I grabbed my truck keys. The Moonlight Motel squatted under buzzing neon like a cancer on the roadside. Paint peeling, parking lot cracked, the kind of place that didn't ask questions. I parked across the street behind a gas station and waited. At 9:47 p.m., Sophie's silver BMW pulled into the lot. My wife stepped out wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, her hair styled differently, moving with the confidence of a woman who thought she was invisible. She knocked on door 12. The man who answered made my stomach drop. Trent Morrison. I recognized him from Sophie's gym. Personal trainer, maybe 28 to my 36, all muscles and white teeth and the kind of cocky smile that said he'd never worked a real day in his life. He pulled Sophie into the room and shut the door. I sat there for 2 hours, watching shadows move behind those cheap curtains, feeling 8 years of marriage crumble like old concrete. When I finally drove home, I left a note under Trent's windshield wiper. "Hope you checked your brake lines lately. A concerned citizen." That weekend stretched like a year. Sophie sent cheerful texts about spa treatments and wine tastings, complete with photos that could have been taken anywhere. I responded with neutral replies while planning my next move. Sunday night, she came home glowing, talking about how refreshed she felt. She'd bought new perfume, something musky and expensive that made my skin crawl. She wore her wedding ring again, spinning it on her finger like it was a costume piece she'd forgotten how to wear. "How was the spa?" I asked over dinner. "Amazing. We should go together sometime." She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. "I missed you." The lie came so easily, I almost admired it. Almost. "Funny thing," I said, and I was checking our credit card statement. No charges at any spa resort this weekend. Her face went pale, then flushed. "We split everything. Melissa paid, I'll reimburse her later." Another lie, smoother than the first. She was good at this. Probably had been for months. Maybe years. Of course, I said. Silly me. That night, she made love to me with an enthusiasm that felt like guilt, whispering how much she'd missed me, how sorry she was for being distant lately. I played along, but inside, something had shifted. The man who'd trusted his wife was gone. In his place was someone colder, someone who paid attention to details, like how she'd changed all her passwords, how she kept her phone face down now, how she'd started working late 3 nights a week, always on projects that required client dinners, how our daughter Ella, home from college for spring break, had started giving me pitying looks like I was the last to know some obvious secret. Monday morning, I called in a favor from my old friend Rick Martinez, who owned a boxing gym downtown. Rick had connections everywhere, bartenders, trainers, people who heard things. Need you to find out about someone, I told him over coffee at his office above the gym. Trent Morrison, personal trainer at Elite Fitness. Rick raised an eyebrow. This about Sophie? What makes you say that? Danny, I've known you since high school. You look like someone stole your dog and shot your truck. He pulled out his phone. Give me 24 hours. The next evening, Rick called with a report that made my hands shake. Trent Morrison, 28, personal trainer and part-time model, known for specializing in lonely housewives, had been bragging at bars about his hot older client, who bought him expensive gifts and took him on weekend trips. Apparently, Sophie wasn't his first married conquest. There's more, Rick said. Word is, he's got photos, likes to keep trophies. That's when the last piece of my old self died. The trusting husband was gone. The man who'd built a successful business from nothing, who'd fought for everything he had, was back. Time for Trent to learn that some trophies bite back. Elite Fitness sat in the trendy part of downtown, all glass and chrome and overpriced smoothies. I joined the next morning, claiming I needed to get back in shape. The young woman at the front desk, probably another of Trent's conquests, signed me up with a smile that said she'd seen 100 middle-aged men having midlife crises. Would you like to schedule a session with one of our trainers? She asked. Actually, I heard Trent Morrison is good. A friend of my wife's recommended him. Her smile flickered. Oh, Trent's very popular with our female clients. I bet he was. Trent strutted over 20 minutes later, all confidence and expensive workout gear. Up close, he was even more punchable. Perfectly styled hair, spray tan, teeth so white they probably glowed in the dark. So you're Sophie's husband, he said, extending a hand like we were old friends. She talks about you all the time. The audacity was breathtaking. This kid was sleeping with my wife and had the balls to shake my hand and smile about it. All good things, I hope, I said, gripping harder than necessary. His smile twitched. Of course, man. She's awesome. Really energetic. The way he said energetic made me want to put his head through the mirror wall. Instead, I smiled back. Yeah, she's been extra energetic lately. All those weekend trips really recharge her batteries. Now his smile faltered completely. Good. Let him wonder how much I knew. So, what are your fitness goals? He asked, trying to regain control of the conversation. Oh, I want to get stronger. Build up my endurance. You know how it is. Sometimes you need to go the distance in a fight. We spent an hour with him putting me through exercises, me asking innocent questions about his training philosophy, his other clients, his weekend plans. Every question was a probe, testing how much he'd reveal, how cocky he really was. The answer was very. By the end of the session, he was bragging about his flexible schedule and how some clients like to train outside normal hours and in private settings. He even mentioned how some clients were so grateful they bought him gifts, expensive watches, weekend trips, experiences he'd never forget. Sounds like you've got it made, I said, toweling off. Yeah, man. Life's good when you know how to treat people right. I wanted to laugh. This moron thought he was playing chess when he didn't even know the game had started. Same time next week? I asked. Absolutely. And hey, tell Sophie I said hi. Maybe she'll come back for more sessions soon. There it was, the slip I'd been waiting for. Sophie had told me she'd quit that gym months ago because it was too crowded. Another lie in the growing pile. I'll be sure to mention it, I said. That evening, I started phase 1 of my plan. I created a fake Instagram account. Just another fitness enthusiast looking for tips. Started following Trent and his circle of trainer friends. Liked their posts, left encouraging comments, slowly built rapport. Within a week, I was part of their online community. That's when I discovered Trent's weakness. He couldn't resist showing off. His stories were full of expensive restaurants, luxury hotel rooms, gifts from grateful clients. He was documenting his own affair, too stupid and arrogant to realize he was creating evidence. I screenshot everything. Meanwhile, Sophie's behavior got sloppier. She stopped trying to hide her phone completely, just kept it on silent and face down. Started humming songs I didn't recognize. Bought new lingerie she claimed was just for me, but somehow never wore when we were together. The breaking point came on a Thursday night. She was working late again, supposedly in a client dinner that would run until 11. I drove past Meridian Marketing at 8, parking lot empty, building dark. Then I checked the Moonlight Motel. Her car was there. I parked across the street and called her phone. "Hey, baby," she answered, slightly breathless. "Can't talk long, we're between courses." "Sounds like a fancy place. What restaurant?" "Oh, that new Italian place downtown. Molto bene." I'd driven past Molto bene 5 minutes earlier. It was closed for renovations, had been for 2 weeks, even had a sign up. "Have the osso buco," I said. "I hear it's amazing there." "Definitely will. Love you. Gotta go." She hung up. Through the motel window, I could see shadows moving. My wife was in there with her trainer, lying to my face while he did God knows what to her. That's when I stopped feeling hurt and started feeling dangerous. I pulled out my phone and sent her a text. "Hope you're having fun at your dinner. Don't worry about coming home late. I'll probably be working in the garage all night. Lots of projects to finish." Then I got out of my truck and walked across the parking lot to Trent's BMW. Beautiful car, probably cost more than most people made in a year, definitely more than a personal trainer could afford on his salary. I didn't slash his tires or key the paint. That would be vandalism, and I wasn't stupid. Instead, I loosened the valve stems just enough to cause slow leaks. By morning, he'd have 4 flat tires and no obvious damage. Just bad luck, officer. Then I tucked a note under his windshield. "Karma's a bitch. So is my wife, apparently. Enjoy the ride while it lasts. Someone who knows." I was back in my garage by 10, actually working on a project when Sophie came home at 11:30, makeup slightly smudged, hair not quite as perfect as when she'd left. "How was dinner?" I asked without looking up from the engine I was rebuilding. "Great. Long, but productive." She kissed the top of my head. "You smell like motor oil." "Honest work," I said. "Leaves honest smells." She flinched at that, just slightly. Good. Let her wonder. The next morning, Rick called with news that made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Your boy Trent had some car trouble last night. 4 flat tires, no explanation. Had to call a tow truck at 6 a.m. Word is, he was pretty upset about it." "Shame," I said. "Bad luck comes in waves sometimes." "Yeah, funny how that works. You need anything else?" "Actually, yes. Know anyone who works at Meridian Marketing?" "I might. Why?" "Time to turn up the heat." Linda Hartwell, Sophie's boss, turned out to be exactly what I'd hoped for, a corporate shark who cared more about the company's reputation than employee loyalty. Rick's contact, a janitor named Carlos who'd worked there for 15 years, painted a picture of a woman who'd fire her own mother if it protected her quarterly numbers. "She hates drama," Carlos told Rick. "Any hint of personal problems affecting work, and you're gone." Perfect. I started small. Anonymous email to Linda's assistant, just a concerned citizen reporting that I'd seen a Meridian Marketing employee at a disreputable motel during work hours. No names, just a license plate number and a timestamp. Let Linda's paranoia do the rest. Then I escalated Sophie's gym membership to a premium package, forged her signature, used our joint credit card, added personal training sessions with Trent 3 times a week. When the charges showed up, I'd have documentation of their professional relationship. Meanwhile, I kept up my own training sessions with Trent, playing the oblivious husband while gathering intelligence. The kid was getting nervous, kept asking if I'd noticed any changes in Sophie lately, if she'd mentioned him, if everything was okay at home. "Why?" I asked during a particularly brutal squat session. "Should I be worried about something?" No, nothing like that. Just, want to make sure she's happy with her fitness progress." "Oh, she's definitely getting her exercise. Seems more flexible lately, better stamina. Whatever you're teaching her is working." His face went red. The weight bar trembled in his hands. That's great to hear." "Yeah, she comes home from her workouts completely exhausted. Sometimes she can barely move." I smiled innocently. "Must be quite a workout." He nearly dropped the barbell. The psychological pressure was working, but I needed something bigger. That's when Ella came home for her spring break, full of college drama and social media savvy. "Dad, you look terrible," she said over breakfast. "Are you sleeping?" "Work stress," I lied. Big project deadline coming up. Sophie barely looked up from her phone. These days, she was always texting someone, always smiling at messages I wasn't allowed to see. Maybe you should take a vacation, Ella suggested. You and Mom could go somewhere nice, reconnect. Sophie's head snapped up. Oh, I can't take time off right now. Too many important clients. Like that trainer guy? Ella asked innocently. The one you're always talking about. Trent something? The silence that followed was deafening. Sophie's face went white, then red. I don't. What do you mean? You mentioned him like 5 times last week. How professional he is, how he's helping you reach your goals. Ella shrugged. Sounded important. I watched Sophie scramble for words, watched her realize that her own daughter had noticed her obsession. Beautiful. He's a good trainer. Professional relationship. Right, Ella said, but her tone suggested she wasn't buying it. That afternoon, while Sophie was at her client meeting, I had a heart-to-heart with my daughter. Ella, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. She set down her phone, a miracle in itself. What's wrong, Dad? Have you noticed anything different about your mother lately? Her face crumpled. Oh, God, you know. Know what? About her and that trainer. I saw them together last month when I was home for the weekend. At that coffee shop downtown, they were... She made a face. Definitely not discussing workout routines. My heart broke a little more. My daughter had been carrying this secret, protecting me from the truth. Why didn't you tell me? I hoped I was wrong, and I didn't want to hurt you. Tears started flowing. Dad, I'm so sorry. I pulled her into a hug. This isn't your fault, sweetheart. None of it. What are you going to do? Good question. What was I going to do? That evening, I got my answer. Sophie came home from her meeting, glowing again, humming that same unknown song. She kissed me hello like nothing was wrong, asked about my day like she cared, played the loving wife while her trainer's cologne still clung to her clothes. I'm thinking of upgrading my gym membership, she announced over dinner. Maybe add some personal training sessions. The audacity was breathtaking. She was going to make me pay for her affair sessions. Expensive, I said mildly. I think it's worth the investment. Health is important. Absolutely. In fact, I already upgraded it for you, added those personal training sessions you wanted. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth. You. What? Surprise. I know how much you love working out, so I signed you up for premium personal training. 3 sessions a week with Trent Morrison. Figured since you two have such good professional chemistry, why not make it official? The color drained from her face. She was trapped. Couldn't object without revealing why she didn't want documented training sessions with Trent. That's very thoughtful. I thought so. Your first official session is tomorrow at 6. I made sure it's on our joint credit card so we can track your progress. Sophie excused herself early, claiming a headache. I heard her in the bathroom, whispering frantically into her phone, probably warning Trent about the new arrangement. Good. Let them both sweat. The next evening, I was waiting in the gym parking lot when Sophie arrived for her official session. Watched her walk in, shoulders tense, moving like she was heading to an execution. 30 minutes later, she came out looking shaken. Trent was nowhere to be seen. How was your workout? I asked when she got home. Fine. Good. Productive. Great. Same time Thursday? She nodded weakly. That night, Rick called with an update that made everything clear. Your boy Trent is spooked, he said. Asking around about you, trying to find out what kind of man you are. Word is, he's thinking about finding a new job. Thinking about it? Apparently your wife convinced him to stick around, told him you're harmless. Harmless, that's what my wife thought of me. A harmless man she could cheat on without consequences. Time to show them both how wrong they were. The plan came together like a perfectly tuned engine. Every piece had its place. Every action led to the next, building toward an inevitable conclusion that Sophie and Trent wouldn't see coming until it was too late. First, I needed leverage. Real evidence, not just screenshots and suspicions. That meant getting inside their operation, understanding their schedule, their patterns, their weaknesses. I started following them, not like a stalker, but like a businessman conducting market research. Tuesday lunch meetings at the coffee shop on 5th Street, Thursday evening training sessions that always ended at the Moonlight Motel, Saturday afternoon errands that included shopping for gifts I never saw. They'd gotten comfortable, sloppy. Love makes people stupid, but lust makes them reckless. The breakthrough came when I overheard Sophie on the phone, thinking I was in the garage. She was in our bedroom, door closed, voice low, but not low enough. I know it's risky, but Danny's clueless, she was saying. He actually thinks I'm getting in shape for him. It's almost sad. Pause. No, he won't find out. He's too trusting. Always has been. Another pause. After Ella graduates, we can make our move. I'll file for divorce, claim irreconcilable differences. With the business doing so well, I'll get half of everything. We can start fresh. My blood turned to ice. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning to destroy me financially. Take half my life's work and run off with her boy toy. I love you too, she whispered. Just a little longer, then we'll have everything we want. I stood in the hallway, listening to my wife plan my destruction, and felt something snap inside me. Not break. Snap. Like a rubber band stretched too far, releasing all that stored energy at once. The trusting husband was dead. The man standing in that hallway was someone else entirely. Over the next week, I put my plan into motion. First, I documented everything, hired a private investigator to get photos, recorded phone calls, legal in our state with one-party consent, gathered financial records showing Sophie's suspicious spending patterns. Then I started moving assets. Nothing illegal. I had every right to reorganize our finances. Transferred money from joint accounts to my business account, changed beneficiaries on my life insurance, updated my will to leave everything to Ella, with Sophie getting only what the law required. But the real masterpiece was psychological. I started acting suspicious, coming home at odd hours, taking mysterious phone calls, being vague about my whereabouts. Let Sophie think I was having an affair too. The effect was immediate. She became paranoid, questioning my every move, demanding to know where I'd been. The irony was delicious. The cheating wife, jealous and possessive, accusing me of the very thing she was doing. "You're acting strange, Danny," she said one evening after I'd returned from a completely innocent meeting with my accountant. "Where were you, really?" "Business meeting. Boring stuff." "What kind of business meeting? With who?" I shrugged. "Just planning for the future, making sure I'm prepared for any changes that might be coming." Her face went pale. "What kind of changes?" "Oh, life's unpredictable. Best to be ready for anything." She tried to search my phone that night while I was in the shower. I'd expected it, left it unlocked with a few carefully crafted text messages from fake numbers. Nothing explicit, just enough to make her imagination run wild. The paranoia was eating her alive. She started making mistakes at work. Linda Hartwell mentioned it when I accidentally ran into her at a restaurant downtown. "Is Sophie okay?" Linda asked with fake concern. She seemed distracted lately. Missing deadlines, forgetting meetings. Not like her at all. "Work stress," I said sympathetically. "She's been worried about some personal issues. I keep telling her not to let it affect her professional life, but you know how it is." Linda's eyes sharpened. She smelled weakness. "Personal issues?" "Nothing serious. Just some family drama. But Sophie takes everything so personally, lets it consume her. I worry about her judgment sometimes." The seed was planted. Within days, Sophie was complaining about increased scrutiny at work, about Linda questioning her decisions, about feeling like she was walking on eggshells. "Maybe you should focus more on work," I suggested innocently. "Less time at the gym, more time securing your career." "I can't just stop working out," she snapped. "It's important for my health." "Of course. Though I notice you've been pretty stressed lately. Maybe the personal training isn't helping as much as you thought." She glared at me, suspicious but unable to articulate why. The pressure was working. Sophie was cracking, making more mistakes, trusting Trent less as her own paranoia grew. And Trent, sensing her instability, was getting nervous about their whole arrangement. That's when I played my ace. I scheduled a meeting with Linda Hartwell under the pretense of discussing a potential marketing contract for my business. During our conversation, I casually mentioned my concerns about Sophie's recent behavior. "I'm worried she might be having some kind of breakdown," I confided. "The late nights, the secretive phone calls, the mood swings. Last week I found hotel receipts in her purse for places she's never mentioned going." Linda leaned forward, corporate instincts engaged. "Hotel receipts? Probably innocent. Client meetings, maybe. But the timing is odd, always during her supposed gym sessions." I shook my head sadly. "I don't want to think she's lying to me, but the evidence is concerning." "Have you considered that she might be meeting someone?" "The thought has crossed my mind. But who? And why lie about it unless—" I trailed off, letting her imagination fill the blanks. Linda's face hardened. Meridian Marketing had strict policies about employee conduct, especially anything that could reflect poorly on the company. An affair with a client would be bad enough, but an affair that involved lying and deception suggested poor judgment that could extend to business decisions. "I appreciate you bringing this to my attention," Linda said carefully. "We take employee wellness very seriously." Translation. Sophie was now on Linda's radar as a potential liability. The next week, Sophie came home in tears. Linda had called her into the office for a performance review that was really an interrogation about her recent behavior, her time management, her commitment to the company. "She knows something," Sophie sobbed. "I don't know how, but she knows." I held her while she cried, rubbing her back, making soothing noises. "Knows what, honey? You're not doing anything wrong. I feel like everyone's watching me, judging me, like they can see right through me." "Maybe you're just stressed. When's the last time you took a real break? Maybe skip the gym for a few days, focus on work?" "I can't. I have commitments." "What kind of commitments?" "It's just exercise." She pulled away, eyes flashing. "You don't understand. It's not just about fitness. It's complicated. Try me." For a moment, I thought she might confess, might break down and tell me everything, beg for forgiveness, give me the chance to be the understanding husband who worked through this together. Instead, she wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "It's nothing you need to worry about. I can handle it." That's when I knew there would be no redemption, no tearful confession, no working it out, no happily ever after. Sophie had chosen her path, and now she'd walk it to the end. Time for the final act. The confrontation happened on a Thursday night, exactly 3 months after I'd first seen that text about the wedding ring. Poetic justice, in a way. I'd spent the week setting the stage. Anonymous tips to Linda Hartwell about employee conduct. A carefully orchestrated accident where Ella discovered her mother's burner phone hidden in the laundry room. A fake emergency that would bring everyone together at exactly the right time. Sophie thought she was meeting Trent for their usual Thursday session. What she didn't know was that I'd called the gym and reported a gas leak in the building. They'd evacuated everyone an hour earlier. Trent was probably standing in the parking lot right now, wondering where she was. Instead, Sophie was driving to what she thought was an emergency at Ella's college. I'd sent her a panicked text from a spoofed number, claiming to be Ella's roommate. "Ella's in the hospital. Car accident. She's asking for her mom. Please come to Mercy General right away." Of course, Ella was safe at home, in on the plan now. My daughter had decided she was tired of watching her mother destroy our family. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" she'd asked when I explained what I needed her to do. "She made her choice, sweetheart. Now she gets to live with the consequences." Sophie arrived at Mercy General in a panic, only to be told there was no emergency, no accident, no patient by Ella's name. Confused and frightened, she called me. "Danny, something's wrong. I got a message about Ella being hurt, but the hospital says she's not here. I don't understand." "That's strange," I said calmly. "Ella's right here at home. Been here all evening." "What? But the message?" "What message?" "Sophie, where are you?" "I'm at the hospital. Someone texted me that Ella was hurt." "From Ella's phone?" "No, from her roommate's number." "Honey, Ella doesn't have a roommate. She has a single room this semester, remember?" The silence stretched out as the implications sank in. "Someone's playing games with you," I continued. "Question is, who would want to mess with your head like that?" I don't know. Come home. We need to talk." She arrived 30 minutes later, shaken and confused. I was waiting in the living room with Ella, a bottle of wine open on the coffee table, like a family meeting. "Sit down, Sophie." She perched on the edge of the couch, looking between Ella and me. "What's going on?" "That's what I'd like to know." I poured myself a glass of wine, didn't offer her one. "Someone's been playing games with our family, sending fake messages, causing drama, making you run around town chasing emergencies that don't exist. I don't understand." "Neither do I. But I've been thinking about who might want to hurt us, who has access to personal information about our family, who might have reasons to cause trouble." Her face was getting paler by the minute. "The thing is," I continued, "this kind of manipulation requires inside knowledge. Someone who knows our routines, our relationships, our vulnerabilities. Someone close to us." "Danny, what are you saying?" "I'm saying someone we trust has been lying to us, playing games, maybe even using our family for their own agenda." I reached into my jacket and pulled out a manila folder, set it on the coffee table between us. "I hired a private investigator," I said simply. "Wanted to find out who was messing with my family." Sophie's eyes locked onto the folder like it was a snake. "Go ahead," I said. "Open it." Her hands shook as she lifted the cover. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Sophie and Trent at the coffee shop, Sophie and Trent at the motel, Sophie and Trent in his car, in compromising positions that left no doubt about their relationship. "Interesting thing about private investigators," I said conversationally. "They're very thorough. They don't just take pictures, they document patterns, timelines, financial transactions. I flipped to the next section. Credit card statements highlighting charges at restaurants, hotels, and stores during times when Sophie claimed to be working or at the gym. They also do background checks. Did you know your boyfriend has done this before? 3 other married women in the past 2 years. Same pattern every time. Lonely housewife, expensive gifts, promises of a future together. Then when things get complicated, he disappears. Sophie's face was white as paper. Danny, I can explain. Can you? Because I'm really curious about the explanation, especially the part where you've been planning to divorce me and take half my business. Her mouth fell open. How did you? Phone calls, Sophie. You're not as quiet as you think. Ella leaned forward, her young face hard with disappointment. Mom, how could you do this to Dad? To our family? Ella, sweetheart, it's complicated. You don't understand. I understand that you've been lying to everyone who loves you, Ella shot back. I understand that you've been sneaking around with some loser while Dad worked his ass off to give you everything you wanted. That's enough, Sophie snapped, some of her old authority returning. You don't know what you're talking about. Actually, she does. I flipped to another section of the folder. Because I've been documenting everything for months. Your lies, your excuses, your secret meetings. But more importantly, I've been preparing. Preparing for what? For this conversation. For the divorce you've been planning. For the life you're about to have. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out at the neighborhood we'd called home for 8 years. Here's what's going to happen, I said without turning around. Tomorrow morning, you're going to receive divorce papers. No fault, irreconcilable differences, just like you planned. You'll also receive notice that I've frozen all joint accounts and credit cards pending asset division. You can't do that. Actually, I can. My lawyer assures me it's perfectly legal when there's evidence of financial misconduct. I turned back to face her. And there is evidence, Sophie. Lots of it. I flipped to the financial section. $15,000 in unexplained charges over the past 6 months. Gifts for your boyfriend, hotel rooms, dinners, shopping trips. All from our joint accounts, all without my knowledge or consent. Those were legitimate expenses. For what? Show me one receipt that justifies a $500 dinner at Le Bernardin during your supposed work emergency last month. She couldn't because there wasn't one. The house goes on the market next week, I continued. Proceeds split according to actual contributions, which according to our financial records means you get about 30%. Your car payments stop immediately since they come from my business account. Your gym membership, your credit cards, your allowance, all of it stops. This is insane. You're destroying our family over nothing. I'm not destroying anything, Sophie. You already did that. I sat back down, leaned forward, looked her in the eyes. But here's the beautiful part. You get exactly what you wanted. Freedom. No wedding ring to remember. No husband to lie to. No family obligations to interfere with your new relationship. What about Ella? What about her? She's an adult. She can choose who she wants in her life. I glanced at my daughter, who was staring at her mother with a mixture of anger and disgust. Though I suspect that choice is already made. Sophie looked around the room desperately, like she was searching for an escape route. This is all a misunderstanding. If you just let me explain... Explain what? How you accidentally fell onto your trainer's dick? How you accidentally planned to steal my business? How you accidentally spent months lying to everyone who loved you? The crude language hit her like a slap. In 8 years of marriage, I'd never spoken to her that way. You want the truth? I stood up again, started pacing. The truth is, you're a selfish, manipulative woman who got bored with her stable, loving husband and decided to trade him in for a younger model. The truth is, you're not the victim here. You're the predator. That's not fair. Fair? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to talk about fair? Fair would be me exposing your affair to everyone you know. Fair would be me sending these photos to your boss, your clients, your parents, your friends. Fair would be me destroying your reputation the way you've destroyed our marriage. Her eyes widened in terror. You wouldn't. No, I wouldn't, because unlike you, I have some dignity left. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. But make no mistake, if you try to fight this divorce, if you try to take more than you're entitled to, if you try to turn Ella against me or spread lies about why this marriage ended, then all bets are off. The room fell silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Sophie sat there, clutching the folder of evidence, her whole world crumbling around her. I need to call Trent, she finally whispered. Good luck with that. I pulled out my phone, showed her a text message. He quit his job this afternoon, something about needing a fresh start in another city. Apparently, he's not as committed to your relationship as you thought. The last bit of color drained from her face. What did you do? Me? Nothing. I just had a friendly conversation with him yesterday, man to man. Explained the situation, showed him some of the same evidence you're holding. Funny thing about guys like Trent. They're only interested in the fun parts of an affair. When it gets complicated, when there are consequences, they run. Sophie started crying then. Not the delicate tears of a woman seeking sympathy, but the ugly, desperate sobs of someone who'd lost everything. I never meant for this to happen, she choked out. It started as nothing. Just flirting, just feeling attractive again. Then it got out of hand. When? I asked quietly. When did it get out of hand? When you took off your wedding ring? When you lied about where you were going? When you started planning to leave me? When you spent our money on him? When exactly did you realize you'd crossed a line you couldn't uncross? She couldn't answer, because there was no good answer. Every step had been a choice. Every lie a decision. Every betrayal a conscious act. I want you out of this house tonight, I said finally. Take whatever clothes you need. Everything else we'll sort out through lawyers. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I stood up, walked toward the door. You made your choice, Sophie. You chose him over us, chose lies over truth, chose selfishness over family. Now you get to live with that choice. I paused at the doorway, looked back at the woman I'd loved for 8 years, the woman who'd destroyed everything we'd built together. Oh, and Sophie, next time you want to leave your husband, try being honest about it. It's less messy than this. I walked out of the room, leaving her alone with the wreckage of her decisions and the daughter who no longer respected her. An hour later, I heard her car pull out of the driveway for the last time. Ella found me in the garage, working on an engine with unnecessary intensity. You okay, Dad? I will be. I set down my wrench, wiped my hands on a rag. We both will. I'm proud of you, she said quietly, for not letting her get away with it. I didn't do this for revenge, sweetheart. I did it for truth, for justice, for the principle that actions have consequences. Still, she had it coming. Maybe she did. Maybe they both did. But as I stood there in my garage, surrounded by the honest work of fixing broken things, I realized I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, exhausted, like I'd won a war that nobody should have had to fight. The next morning, Sophie's resignation letter hit Linda Hartwell's desk. The morning after that, Trent's forwarding address led to a city 3 states away. By the end of the week, the divorce papers were filed and the house was listed. 6 months later, I was living in a smaller place across town, my business thriving without the financial drain of Sophie's lifestyle. Ella visited every weekend, and we were closer than we'd ever been. The settlement had been exactly what I'd predicted. Sophie got her 30% and no more. I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved back in with her parents, taken a job at a smaller marketing firm, and was dating a series of younger men who never seemed to stick around long. Apparently, being a single woman in her 40s wasn't as liberating as she'd imagined. I didn't take any satisfaction in her struggles.